My parents disowned me for decades, then saw me on Forbes Billionaire list and showed up at my office sobbing. Hi lovelies. Subscribe to stay part of our storytelling family, and let us know in the comments where you're watching from. Now let's move forward with the story. I was 19 when my mother looked me dead in the eyes and said, "If you walk out that door with her, you're no daughter of mine." Her voice didn't waver. My father stood behind her, arms crossed, silent as always. My younger brother Marcus smirked from the staircase, and my sister Diane wouldn't even look at me. It was Jessica, my girlfriend of 2 years. The woman I loved more than anything. My family had always been deeply religious, the kind that filled 3 pews every Sunday, the kind where reputation mattered more than truth. When they found Jessica's love letters in my room, everything shattered. "Mama, please," I begged, my duffel bag trembling in my hands. "I'm still me. I'm still your daughter. That thing you're choosing?" She pointed at Jessica waiting in the car outside. "That's the devil's work. You're sick and you need help. We found a place, a ministry that can fix you." My stomach dropped. Conversion therapy. I'd heard the stories, the trauma, the suicide rates, the broken people who came out worse than before. "I'm not sick," I whispered, tears streaming down my face. "Then leave." My father finally spoke, his voice cold. "Leave and never come back. You'll get nothing from us. No money for that fancy college you got into. No family. No home. You make this choice, you're dead to us." Marcus laughed. "Guess we know who the failure is now." I looked at each of them one last time, hoping someone would break, would show mercy. No one did. So I walked out into the rain, leaving behind everything except my dignity. I had $247 in my bank account and a full scholarship I might lose without family support documentation. The women's shelter smelled like industrial cleaner and desperation. Jessica and I huddled on a single cot, our belongings in 2 garbage bags beneath the bed. She held me while I cried every night for the first week, whispering promises that everything would be okay. But I could see the fear in her eyes too. My scholarship required proof of independence for housing allowance. Without my parents' tax information or a letter declaring me legally emancipated, I was stuck. The financial aid office was sympathetic but firm. "Rules are rules." "I can work," I told Jessica, wiping my eyes. "I'll defer a semester, save money, figure this out." He grabbed my hands. "Baby, you worked too hard for that biology degree. We'll figure this out together." We did figure it out brutally. I took 3 jobs. Morning shift at a diner, afternoon stock work at a grocery store, nights cleaning office buildings. Jessica worked 2 jobs herself. We slept 4 hours a night if we were lucky. I watched my college dreams slip away with each passing month. The shelter had a 3-month limit. When our time was up, we moved into a room we rented from an older woman named Ms. Patricia. She charged us $400 monthly for a room barely bigger than a closet, but she was kind. She'd leave us plates of food outside our door and never asked invasive questions. One night, exhausted and delirious, I collapsed while mopping an office floor. I woke up in the hospital with Jessica crying over me. The doctor said I was severely malnourished and sleep-deprived. "You're killing yourself," Jessica sobbed. "This isn't living." But what choice did I have? My family's rejection had left me with nothing but survival mode. Still, lying in that hospital bed, something shifted. I refused to let them break me. Miss Patricia visited me in the hospital, bringing homemade soup and a stern expression. "Child, you're going about this all wrong," she said, settling into the chair beside my bed. "You got a brain, I can tell. Why you breaking your back when you could be using your mind?" "I don't have options," I mumbled. "Bull. You got the internet, don't you?" She pulled out a newspaper circling want ads. "These tech companies, they're hiring people to test websites, do data entry, customer service. All remote. Pays better than killing yourself cleaning toilets." Something clicked. That night, Jessica and I researched everything we could about remote work. Within a week, I'd landed 3 online gigs. Testing software, managing social media for small businesses, and doing virtual assistance work. The pay was double what I'd been making, and I could do it from our tiny room. But I wanted more. I started taking free online coding courses at the library, spending every spare moment learning Python, JavaScript, anything I could absorb. Jessica thought I was crazy when I pitched my idea. Building a platform to connect freelancers with businesses, specifically targeting people like us. Marginalized, desperate, talented people who needed chances. With what money? She asked, not unkindly. With time and desperation, I grinned. For 8 months, I coded after my remote shifts ended. I survived on coffee and spite, fueled by the memory of my father's cold dismissal and Marcus's cruel laugh. Every line of code was a middle finger to everyone who'd given up on me. When I finally launched Freelance Connect, I had exactly 12 users. All friends of friends, people who believed in the vision. It wasn't much, but it was mine. No family money. No inheritance. Just pure, stubborn determination. Freelance Connect grew slowly, then suddenly. What started as a dozen users became hundreds within 6 months, then thousands. I'd accidentally tapped into something bigger than I understood. Millions of people were locked out of traditional employment due to discrimination, disability, geography, or circumstance. They just needed a platform that understood them. Jessica became my first official employee, handling client relations while I managed the technical infrastructure. We moved out of Ms. Patricia's closet into a 1-bedroom apartment. Felt like a mansion. We could afford groceries without counting pennies. Simple luxuries felt like miracles. But success brought new problems. Bigger platforms noticed us. I received my first buyout offer. $500,000 for everything. Jessica thought I was insane for refusing. Baby, that's life-changing money, she argued. And if I sell, some corporation guts what makes us special, I countered. They'll monetize desperate people instead of helping them. I didn't build this to sell out. The investor, a slick man named Richard Ross, wasn't pleased. You're making a mistake. You don't have the capital to scale properly. You'll be crushed by competition. Then I'll be crushed, I said firmly. Richard studied me for a long moment, then smiled. I respect that. What if instead of buying you, I invested 20% equity for $2 million in capital and my expertise? My hands shook signing those papers. At 23 years old, with no college degree and a family who'd disowned me, I had serious venture capital backing. Jessica and I celebrated by crying in our apartment, overwhelmed by how far we'd come from that shelter. But I never forgot where I came from. Every hiring decision, every feature we built, centered on one question. Does this help people like we needed help? 3 years later, Freelance Connect had 12 million active users and had processed over $800 million in freelance payments. We'd expanded internationally, added AI-powered matching technology, and created training programs for underserved communities. I'd hired 300 employees, prioritizing people from marginalized backgrounds. When the Forbes journalist requested an interview, I almost declined. We don't need the publicity, I told Marcus. Not my brother, but my new CEO, Marcus Williams, a formerly incarcerated man I'd given a second chance who'd proven invaluable. Boss, this isn't about publicity, he said gently. This is about visibility. You're a young black queer woman who built a billion-dollar company from nothing. People need to see that's possible. The interview was intense. The journalist, Amanda Richardson, dug into everything. My background, my motivation, my vision. When she asked about my family, I froze. I don't have one, I said simply. I built this alone. Completely alone. Her pen paused. I had Jessica, my partner. And I had strangers who became family. People who saw my worth when my blood relatives didn't. Amanda's eyes softened. That's powerful. Would you be comfortable sharing why your biological family isn't in the picture? I took a breath. I'd never publicly discussed it. They disowned me at 19 for being gay. Told me I was dead to them unless I went to conversion therapy. So I chose myself. The article ran with the headline, From Homeless to Forbes Billionaire List, How One Woman Built an Empire After Her Family Disowned Her. My face was on the cover, staring confidently at the camera. Inside, my story was laid bare. The shelter, the survival jobs, the nights coding until my eyes bled. Within hours it went viral. My assistant Jenna knocked on my office door, her expression troubled. There's someone named Diane on line 3. She says she's your sister. My coffee cup paused halfway to my lips. I hadn't heard that name in 7 years. Tell her I'm unavailable. She's called 6 times today. She's insistent. Block the number. But the calls didn't stop. My brother Marcus, my actual brother, not my COO, started calling from different numbers. Then my mother. My father sent an email to my business address, somehow finding it despite me having changed my name legally from my maiden name to my chosen name years ago. The email subject line read, "Your mother is sick. We need to talk." I stared at it for an hour before Jessica found me. We were married now, a small ceremony with our chosen family. She'd become Freelance Connect's chief people officer, beloved by everyone. "Are you going to open it?" she asked softly. "I don't know if I can." She sat beside me, took my hand. "Whatever you decide, I'm here. But remember, you don't owe them anything. Not forgiveness, not time, not even acknowledgement." I opened it. My father's words were formal, distant, like addressing a business associate rather than his daughter. "Your mother has stage 3 breast cancer. He's asking for you. We saw your Forbes article. We're proud of what you've accomplished. We'd like to reconnect as a family. Please call." Proud. The word tasted bitter. Where was that pride when I was sleeping in a shelter? When I was so malnourished I collapsed. When I needed them most. I deleted the email without responding. But they didn't give up. 2 days later, Jenna knocked again. "There are people in the lobby claiming to be your parents. Security is asking what to do." My blood ran cold. "They're here." I watched them through the security camera feed before going down. My mother looked smaller somehow, grayer, worn by time and illness. My father stood rigid beside her, his face harder. Diane and Marcus flanked them, dressed nicely like they were attending a business meeting rather than ambushing their estranged daughter. "Send them to conference room B," I told Jenna. "And stay on standby." When I walked in, my mother gasped. "Baby, you look..." "Don't," I cut her off, my voice ice. "You don't get to call me that. State your business." My father stood. "We came to apologize. We were wrong about your lifestyle. We see that now. You've done remarkably well and we're proud." "My lifestyle," I repeated slowly. "You mean my identity. My wife. My entire existence." "We're trying to make amends," Diane interjected. "Mama's sick. She wants to know her daughter before." "Before what?" "Before she dies and has to face God knowing she threw away her child like garbage." I laughed bitterly. "That's not my problem." "Marcus, my brother, scoffed. "You're really going to be this petty? She has cancer." And I had nothing. I had terror and abandonment and trauma that I'm still working through in therapy. "Where were you then?" My mother started crying. "We made a mistake. We were following our faith, what we thought was right. But we've grown. The pastor we had back then, he's been replaced. The new one says love is love. We understand now." "You understand now," I said flatly. "Now that it's convenient. Now that you saw me on Forbes and realized I'm not the failure you predicted. Let me guess, you're also here because you need something. Money for treatments." The silence confirmed everything. "Get out," I said quietly. "Please." My mother reached for me. "Get it. Before I have security remove you." They didn't leave me alone. Instead, they launched a full-scale assault on my conscience. My mother's church friends started reaching out, telling me I was cruel for abandoning my dying mother. Distant relatives I'd never met commented on every social media post, calling me heartless. Someone leaked my personal phone number. I received hundreds of messages daily. "Your mother is dying and you care more about pride. Forgiveness is godly. Family is forever. You'll regret this when she's gone." The breaking point came when a local news station ran a story. "Billionaire CEO refuses to help dying mother." They'd interviewed my family, who painted themselves as humble, reformed people seeking redemption while their successful daughter coldly turned them away. My mother, frail and tearful on camera. "I just want to know my daughter again. I made mistakes, but don't we all deserve forgiveness? She has all this money, all this success, and I'm so proud of her. I just want to tell her that before I die." The public backlash was immediate. My business social media flooded with hate comments. Some clients threatened to leave the platform. How can we trust someone so heartless to run a company about connection? I was sitting in my office, head in my hands, when Jessica walked in with Marcus, my CEO, not my brother, and our general counsel, Patricia Ross, no relation to our investor, but another person I'd given a chance to. We need to address this publicly, Patricia said firmly. Your silence is being weaponized. I don't want to air this dirty laundry, I muttered. Then they control the narrative, Marcus added. Boss, you taught me that our stories matter. That truth matters. Tell yours. Jessica knelt beside me. Baby, I know you want privacy. But sometimes the only way to stop manipulation is to expose it. Tell people what really happened. All of it. So I did. I scheduled a live video on all our platforms. No script, no PR team, just me and a camera. Within minutes, over 1 million people were watching. I'm going to tell you a story, I began, my voice steady despite my shaking hands. When I was 19 years old, I told my parents I was gay. They gave me an ultimatum: go to conversion therapy or leave forever. When I chose to leave, my father told me I was dead to them. My brother laughed and called me a failure. My sister wouldn't even look at me. They didn't just cut me off emotionally, they sabotaged my financial aid, making it impossible for me to attend college. They wanted me to fail. I paused, letting that sink in. I became homeless. My girlfriend and I slept in a shelter. I worked 3 jobs simultaneously and nearly died from malnutrition and exhaustion. During all of this, not once did my family check if I was alive. Not once did they ask if I needed help. They didn't care if I was surviving. They wanted me to suffer for choosing authenticity over their approval. The comments were exploding, but I continued. I built Freelance Connect from nothing because I knew what it felt like to be discarded by people who should love you unconditionally. Every person we've helped, every life we've changed, came from my understanding of what it means to be desperate and overlooked. That's my legacy. My voice hardened. Now, 7 years later, after seeing me on Forbes, my family suddenly wants a relationship. They claim they've evolved, that their new pastor says love is love. But they only reached out after confirming I was successful. My mother's illness is real and I don't wish suffering on anyone. But her need doesn't erase what she did. Her sickness doesn't obligate me to set myself on fire to keep her warm. I leaned closer to the camera. If you've been discarded by your family, know this. You don't owe them forgiveness. You don't owe them access to the life you built from the ashes of their rejection. Protect your peace. The video ended. The response was overwhelming. Millions of supportive comments from people sharing similar stories. Despite the public support, the private pressure intensified. My family, realizing they'd lost the PR battle, changed tactics. They started showing up at Freelance Connect headquarters daily, camping outside with signs. A daughter's love shouldn't have conditions, and forgiveness is divine. They gave interviews painting me as vindictive. My brother Marcus sold a story to a tabloid. My sister's billions changed her. The real story behind the Forbes darling. It was full of lies, claiming I'd always been cold, that they'd been supportive, that I'd fabricated the disownment for sympathy. Old high school acquaintances crawled out of nowhere with twisted stories. The media circus was consuming everything I'd built. My board of directors called an emergency meeting. The company is being damaged, one board member stated bluntly. Stock prices are dropping. This family drama is affecting business. Are you asking me to capitulate to emotional blackmail? I asked, my voice dangerous. We're asking you to consider a strategic reconciliation, another hedged. Even if it's performative. For the company. I stood up slowly. This company was built on authentic connection and refusing to let society's judgment destroy people's worth. If I cave to manipulative tactics now, I'm betraying everything Freelance Connect stands for. So here's what's going to happen. I will not reconcile. Not for optics, not for stock prices, not for anything. If the board can't support that, find a new CEO. The room fell silent. Richard Ross, my original investor and now board chairman, smiled slowly. I invested in you because you were uncompromising. That's still what makes you valuable. anyone want to challenge her? No one did. But that night things escalated. I came home to find my mother sitting on my doorstep, shivering in the cold. She'd convinced the doorman she was dying and needed to see me urgently. Please, she whispered when she saw me. Just 5 minutes. Against my better judgment, I let her in. My mother sat in my living room, looking around at the success she'd tried to prevent. You've done so well for yourself, she said softly. This apartment is beautiful. What do you want? I asked, not sitting down. I want to explain, she said, tears forming. I want you to understand why we did what we did. I understand perfectly. You chose religious extremism over your daughter. It wasn't that simple. She stood agitated. You don't know what it was like. Our community, our church, they were our whole lives. When they said homosexuality was sin, that we'd failed as parents if we accepted it, we panicked. We thought we were saving your soul. You thought you were saving yourselves from embarrassment, I corrected. You cared more about what the congregation thought than about me suffering. She flinched. Maybe we were cowards. But I'm dying now and I need you to forgive me. I need to know you don't hate me before I go. That's not my responsibility. You need forgiveness. Talk to God. You need peace. That's between you and your conscience. But you don't get to use your illness to force me into absolution. I'm your mother, she cried. Doesn't that mean anything? You stopped being my mother when you threw me out in the rain with $247 to my name, I said, my voice breaking despite myself. You know what I needed when I was scared and alone? I needed my mother. She wasn't there. You don't get to be her now just because it's convenient. So you're just going to let me die knowing my daughter hates me? The manipulation was so blatant it almost made me laugh. I don't hate you. I nothing you. You're strangers who share my DNA. And strangers don't get access to my life, my home, or my peace. Her face twisted with rage. There was the real her. You're selfish. You always were. We gave you everything. You gave me trauma. I shouted. You gave me nightmares and trust issues and the belief that love is conditional. You gave me nothing worth keeping. She slapped me. The slap echoed in my apartment. We both stood frozen, shocked. Then my mother's face crumpled. Oh God, I'm sorry, I didn't mean. Get out, I said, my cheek burning. Right now. And if you ever come back, I'll file a restraining order. Baby, please. I'm calling security. Leave now or leave in handcuffs. Your choice. She left, sobbing dramatically. But something inside me had crystallized. This wasn't about forgiveness anymore. This was about survival. Mine. The next morning I called an all-staff meeting. I want to share something personal, I told my 300 employees, many of whom I'd mentored personally. I've been dealing with family members trying to force reconciliation after years of abandonment. Some of you know parts of my story. But I want you all to understand something. This company exists because I survived people who should have loved me deciding I wasn't worth loving. That pain became purpose. I looked around at faces of every color, background, and identity. Some of you came from similar situations. Some of you are thriving now after being told you'd amount to nothing. That's what we do here. We prove that worth isn't determined by who claims us. It's determined by what we build when we're free from people who diminish us. The applause was thunderous. Later, my assistant Jenna approached me privately. My dad disowned me too, she said quietly. For being trans. He found me after I got this job, wanted money. I gave in because I felt guilty. It destroyed me for months until I finally cut him off again. Thank you for giving me permission to protect myself. That conversation changed everything. I realized my very public struggle was helping others navigate similar pain. So I made a decision. I'd use my platform not just to refuse reconciliation, but to actively support others in similar situations. We launched the Chosen Family Fund, providing financial support, therapy, and resources for LGBTQ+ youth disowned by their families. Every dollar I might have given my mother out of guilt went there instead. 5 months later, I received a call from a hospice nurse. My mother had died. My father, brother, and sister wanted me to pay for the funeral. They claimed it was my duty as a daughter. I sent a single response. I owe you nothing. Figure it out yourselves. They sent a final email, venomous and bitter. We hope you're happy. You killed your mother with your cruelty. God will judge you. I deleted it and blocked them forever. The media tried to make me a villain again. Billionaire refuses to pay for mother's funeral. But this time the public overwhelmingly supported me. The Chosen Family Fund had helped over 10,000 young people, and they shared their stories, drowning out the criticism with solidarity. At my mother's funeral, which I learned about through news coverage, my father gave a speech about being blessed with children who honored them. My siblings nodded along, rewriting history for sympathy and probably hoping to crowdfund their financial problems. I didn't attend. Instead, I hosted a gathering at Freelance Connect headquarters for everyone in our Chosen Family Fund. We shared stories, tears, and healing. Jessica held my hand throughout, my anchor through everything. Do you regret not reconciling? She asked me later that night. I thought carefully. I regret that I needed reconciliation at all. I regret having parents who chose doctrine over their daughter. But do I regret protecting myself? Never. Years would pass. Freelance Connect would grow into a global platform worth billions. I'd be recognized as one of the most influential CEOs of my generation. I'd use my wealth to fund LGBTQ+ causes, homelessness initiatives, and educational programs for marginalized communities. But my greatest success wasn't wealth or influence. It was building a life so full of genuine love and purpose that the absence of my biological family felt like relief rather than loss. I'd proven that family isn't who raises you, it's who refuses to leave when things get hard. My parents disowned me at 19, expecting me to fail and come crawling back. Instead, I built an empire. They showed up when they needed something and I showed them the door. Some might call that cruel. I call it self-preservation. And I call it winning. If this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe. Share your own stories of chosen family in the comments. You never know who needs to hear they're not alone. And remember, you owe toxic people nothing, not even forgiveness. Protect your peace. Choose yourself. Every single time. Hit that notification bell so you never miss stories about resilience, boundaries, and building the life you deserve despite those who tried to tear you down. Your story matters. Your healing matters. And sometimes the best revenge is simply living well.